my lung function went up 20% from this 5-day fast. Have you ever been born with heart problems and then had a heart attack at 11 weeks old? And then somehow managed to make it through life until you had a heart-lung transplant? Well, I have. And I'm here to tell you that after 30 years, despite all the medication and the subsequent impairment on my kidneys and lungs and arteries, I'm Miles, and if I can do it, you can do it. And this is my video on the 128-hour fast. It was 5.5 days. So I started on a Sunday evening and I finished after 5 nights, 5 days. And then the Saturday morning was the first time I ate or drank anything other than water. So it's a pure water fast. I've researched this. I first did one back in 2003, I think. I'd been through a very messy divorce. I thought I was at the other end, and then I suddenly had a lot of head issues, headaches, constant headache I couldn't get rid of. I got diagnosed, had a CT scan, MRI scan. There was nothing obvious. And then as it panned out, I went on this 11-day water fast, and it really did pretty much sort it out. I didn't really fully understand the mechanisms then. I was trying everything. I was trying cocktails of antibiotics because I thought it might be one thing. I was trying literally drinking heavily to see if I clear my innards and my head out just for a day. I was trying past life regression. I honestly would have just believed the sky was pink in order to be out of that pain and suffering in my head. But as it was the 11-day fast that sorted it out. I investigated a bunch of things. I came across some research, wasn't particularly health orientated, but it just explained what happens in kind of humans when you go through a fast and what also happens in mammals. So there's some interesting things, like there were sheep that had been frozen over winter or stuck in a snowdrift, I should say. And in the spring, they were still alive, super skinny, but they'd survived months in the snowdrift. Someone killed one of the sheep or a few of the sheep and analysed them. 99% of their brain matter had been preserved. Other organs, it was vastly different. Like the liver was down to about 25% of its mass. So that had been used up. So there's all your proteins and amino acids that you need in life got sucked in and used up and put into the blood and preserve the brain and nervous system. So there's things obviously that mammals can't live with, humans obviously mammals, same thing. All the fat reserves are gone, the muscles had wasted 60% on these animals, but were still there obviously, otherwise they wouldn't be able to do anything. And so the same thing will happen to a human. So your body will start looking around, and first thing it will consume is all the glucose in your blood. Once the glucose is all gone, it will start to burn fat, so it goes into ketosis. And so that's when your breath starts smelling sweet. It's a very ancient pathway, hundreds of millions of years old, burning fat. Burning sugar was the first pathway in all organisms. Burning fat is the second pathway organisms discovered. So it's an ancient part of your DNA. So you start burning fat, the ketones, and they take your fat and burn it and turn it into consumable sugars. So that's great. After your fat's all gone, your body will sort of look inside itself. And even before all your fat's gone, your cells will start doing a lot of tidying up. So it's not a great analogy, and I haven't read the literature for a decade or two. It's in there somewhere, and you can certainly Google it. But the cells will start doing some self-cleaning. So every single cell's got millions of atoms within it, and they'll be looking around going, what can we do with this? What can we do with that? And they will do a tidy. Other slightly higher level, other cells will just do apoptosis, where the actual cell just dies. So the cell will tidy the cells as a whole to start to tidy themselves up and go, well, these cells are kind of end of life, and we don't want to worry about preserving them too much, so they can die. So individual cells will go and do this apoptosis, but they're probably the not so healthy or well functioning cells. Then you're left with the newer, brand newer cells. So all of that mechanism goes on. There's other literature around atherosclerosis, and this is the main reason I did this recent fast, is because I do have calcification in my heart and arteries. Very, very, very common, almost inevitable with transplant patients. So I've got a higher level of that than most people could believe. Had a calcification score of 700. Over 100 is worrying. Over 1,000, you're sort of walking dead person. And it could go at any time. And this is normal individuals and transplanted. But for me, understanding that was really high, I wanted to make sure. I had a calcium scan, so that gave me the high result. But I also had, I then had an angiogram after I told my physicians that I'd had the calcium scan, which they wouldn't sign off on initially. Well, they didn't sign off on. But when they realised I had 700 calcification score, they put me in for an angio. So that's a tube in that goes all around the heart, takes photos of the heart and all the main arteries, and they inject dye in, and they can see the flow in real time and how the blood is flowing. Pretty much all my major vessels were actually unblocked. So atherosclerosis can occur in many different ways. Luckily for me, the calcification is very smooth, and basically the calcification has... So when you strain a heart muscle or an artery, it can cause a micro tear. Then the body fixes it with laying some calcium down so it doesn't have the tear in it. And the last thing the body wants is for that vessel to actually break. So it calcifies it, and you get hardened arteries. And that can lead to blood pressure problems, which I am taking a med for now, or have been for 7-8 years. So this isn't being a very short video at all, I'm sorry, but so it's a nice smooth calcification that's occurred all the way through. There was one minor, semi-minor artery, the LCX, that had a bit of a effectively blockage. So if you have a bad bout of atherosclerosis and it's going badly, you've got a lot of kind of almost like attack vector, weaponized fat cells, because you're eating a very bad diet of fat and sugar simultaneously. And those build-ups in the arteries can cause the shearing, and that can lead to sort of strokes and heart attacks. So when the build-up's not smooth, and actually you get a lot of bumpy calcification, and you get a lot of atherosclerosis with blockages, that will lead to your sort of strokes and heart attacks and cardiovascular diseases, acute ones that obviously are life-threatening. But the physicians told me, all roughly clear, if I do start to feel any strange pains or anything, I'll have to jump back in, and they can put a stent in that single vessel, which wasn't looking too rosy. But that was before I did the fast as well. But the fasting can improve this. So there's research papers out there. I might be able to find one or two, but I've definitely seen and read them and digested them at some point again in the past. I'm good at looking and analysing the stuff, and I'm also even better at forgetting and not memorising the details. So apologies, but I think it was saying a 5-day fast can reduce atherosclerosis by 60%. It can rejuvenate arteries. This is in normal healthy people, by the way, not in transplanted patients, but I roughly think it's going to be the same. So it can rejuvenate their arteries to levels of 18-year-old humans, even in people in the middle age. So, and maybe even older. There's definitely a rejuvenation effect. Obviously, it's not elixir of life. We're all going to die, although that's a topic for the future in terms of how medicine is combating that. But yeah, back on this, a fast is so cheap. One of the reasons you won't hear this bounded about in maybe the medical community, and sorry to be a bit cynical for a minute, is that no one's going to make any money off you from fasting. In fact, when you fast, your food bill goes right down. You don't spend any money on food that week. And there's no money on medications. You're not even drinking any Starbucks. you are literally just on water. So it's not something that they're going to sing from the rooftops in terms of institutions and incentivized institutions and companies and businesses. So apart from maybe fasting retreats where you can go and chill out and fast at the same time, no one's going to make any money off you water fasting. But the benefits are, I think every single research paper has expounded the benefits. I've seen papers, for example, where rats on chemotherapy. They give them a 1-day fast before the chemotherapy, and then the actual chemo was targeting and hitting the cancer. And what had happened is the rat's normal healthy cells were in more of a state of self-preservation and hibernation, and actually there was less damage in those healthy cells for those rats, so they got through the chemo in a much better state. So it's really interesting stuff. I think that's chemo and radiation. So that was another paper I read. I do read a lot of papers, and I'm sorry if I can't find them again. Google's not particularly consistent with bringing up research results from 5 or 10 years ago when I've read these things. I will try and dig some out, put them in the links in the description. So back to this fast. It's a 5-day fast. I did capture some video, which I will just play almost in sequence. Apologies, it's pretty boring. I'm not the most charismatic person, but I do want to get this information out there. Just bear with if it's so boring you can't be bothered to watch it. That's fine. I'm not taking any volition. But the most ecstatic main thing, I might have to cut this and put it at the front of the video, is that my lung function went up 20% from this 5-day fast. 20% increase in my ability to blow out air in the first second of my exhalation. So that's a particular measure called FEV1. It's full exhale ventilation for 1 second. So my FEV1 is measured in all transplant patients and lung patients because it effectively shows you very, very quickly and diagnostically shows you if the airways in your lungs are clean or if they're blocked or if they're under pressure or there's some fibrosis going on. Generally what you'll see in transplant patients is FEV1 just falls off a cliff over the 5 to 7 to 10 years. Obviously with mine, 30 years in, I've managed to preserve it. My FEV1 was a good 5.5 litres at one stage when I was 17, 18. And then it dipped down to 4.5, 3 by the time I was late 20s. But I've managed to stick to that for a decade. Then it's dipped down to lower 2s in the last 4 or 5 years because I had an episode with a fungus infection. We brought it back up. Anyway, it's a big long battle, a big boring story. But it was hovering around 2.6 litres volume. And this fast has bumped that up 20% to 2.6 litres in the first second. So that is an amazing gain. And I can't fully describe to you the physiology of what happened. I wasn't ultra examined at that stage. But what I'm guessing is that some of the pathways were long-term blocked, for years. And there's a series of conditions there's a bit of fibrosis goes along where you get micro-rejection in transplantation lung patients when your white cells can attack the transplanted lung tissue a little bit, and that leads to a bit of maybe fibrosis and damage, and so those pathways can get slightly more blocked and a bit more rigid and less flexible. So I've had all of that going on. This 5.5 day fast improved it 20%, so back up over 2.6, which is an FEV1 I wasn't really expecting. My full volume, FVC, is actually still over 5 litres. I think the highest I ever had it was 6 litres, and even to this day it's 5.1 litres. And actually for my age and size, that's over 100% of what people would expect. So all my yoga and all my running and all my exercising has left me, as at the age of 45, with more lung capacity in total than an average person of my sex, age and weight. So that's a fantastic achievement, and I bloody do work hard for it. I do feel I deserve it. If I'm not maybe entitled to it, I deserve it. And but yeah, the fast has improved that. I felt on day 4 and 5 this kind of feeling like I could breathe easier, and I'd been down at the 2.2 range for over a year, I think. So to have to just feel that, I wasn't measuring on my spirometer because I don't usually do that every week or day. It's something I very rarely tend to use because I kind of know it's got such long-term entrenched patterns. There's nothing usually changing that sharply. But on day 4 or 5, I was like, wow, I really feel I can take such a deep, long breath, and it's so clear. And I'll go and find my spirometer and take some measurements, which luckily I did. And I haven't got any to compare to just before the fast, because like I said, I wasn't measuring every day, but I had just had a new spirometer like a couple of months before. So I had taken 2 tests only 6 or 8 weeks prior to this. And they were both very consistent, very low. So this is a massive ramp up change. Anyway, probably talked about that enough. So, is that something you might consider? Fasting, quite pretty difficult. You have to, I think, psych yourself up a little bit. You obviously have hormones which are telling you to eat, and they can be really strong if especially your diet's not in good shape. But if you can get through breakfast, and if you get these spikes in these hormones, ghrelin is your hunger hormone. You'll get a ghrelin spike at breakfast, lunch and dinner if you have roughly set times. If you can get through those hour or two, and you can keep, the ghrelin will subside. So then it should be easier to get for the next few hours until your next meal time. Then also, if you're keeping yourself busy over those meal times and roughly mentally engaged in something, it's quite easy, I think, to get through a 36-hour fast. So you don't eat the night before, from the night before. You sleep, you're just asleep. You get through breakfast, lunch and dinner, those lot of ghrelin spikes, and then you sleep again on your empty stomach, and you'll eventually fall asleep. And then you wake up the next morning, you've done a 36-hour fast. So that's what I'd recommend starting with. If you can do like a few of those, like over a period of a month or 2, you can then start to build up to maybe a 3-day fast and then maybe a 5-day fast. I think, again, some research papers I'm not really being able to refine very quickly, but it's the 4 or 5 day fast that is more effective for atherosclerosis, and it's certainly. It was only on day 4 or 5 that I really started feeling my chest and lungs feel better. So that's probably what you want to build up to. And good luck. Think about trying it. Certainly try building up from a base of maybe 1 day. Even like skipping a breakfast and going to your next meal. Even baby step like that might help. So good luck. I hope this has been a useful video about fasting. We'll then have the rest of it, and no real wrap up. Just me grueling through 5 days of fasting and some footage coming up. So that will be at the video, and enjoy. And I've got another video coming, just be about my exercise benefits since then. All right. Cheers. Bye.
Hey, this is Sunday, the 20-something of April, and I'm going to do a 5-day fast. I'm not doing it for masochistic reasons. I'm doing it because it's got absolutely 100% scientifically validated results in improving your health, longevity, and for me, most importantly, arterial health. I have done fasts before. I'll talk about a bit of history of them as I go through the days, but yeah, you've got to psych yourself up a bit to fast and then just get on with it. So I'll be charting this 5-day fast, and if I can do it, you can do it.
Hey up, it's about 5 p.m. on day 2. I've just finished work for the day and didn't make an update video yesterday. It went fine.
had a snooze at midday. I lasted for an hour or two. Super tired, so I just decided to listen to my body and do that. Not something I usually do any given month. But yeah, into day 2, and now walking past the food okay without too many problems, and I'm going to go to the gym now, because I think it's important to tell your body what you really need of your body going forward. And so doing quite hardcore workout with weights just shows your body that you really need that extreme health out of it. So it's morning of day 4. So Thursday morning, didn't eat since Sunday evening. I woke up this morning and my heart was beating pretty hard. I think it's trying to get nutrition around, but I think it's obviously doing all the good stuff as well. Having a good clear out, making sure everything's in order. So I'm feeling a bit weak, and you always feel a bit cold during fasting because that furnace is shut down. But my dog wants to go for a walk, so I'm going to go for a run and see how that goes. Hopefully kickstart the metabolism everywhere. First drink other than water for a week. It's still coffee. First food for a week. Huevos rancheros. Been dreaming about this for a day. Yummy, yummy.